On this episode of the Palm Beach Current, I'm joined by Wendell Maxey, new Palm Beach resident and Sports Illustrated reporter, who is promoting his new book, Called for Traveling. Pleased to be joined on this episode of the Palm Beach Current by Wendell Maxey. Wendell, this is my favorite type of interview. I probably shouldn't play favorites, but I really do enjoy interviewing authors. I think there's something huge to books. And usually with books come great stories. And with your story, I think our audience will really be interested here. It's all about basketball, about your time covering basketball, coaching basketball, doing all different types of things. The book is called Traveling, or Called for Traveling, 20 Years of Sports Writing from the NBA to Europe and Back Again. Wendell, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
So tell me a little bit about what the motivation was in writing the book.
Well, as I'm working on my second book, this first book was supposed to be the second book. I felt after 20 years, it was a pretty good bookend where I could put a collection of short stories together over that period of time, covering the NBA, working in basketball and traveling overseas, and the international game, exploring that, drawing closer to it as I went to work for a pro team and then later coached international basketball at a high school there in Germany. So it just felt like now was the time before I kind of get ramped up on this second one. So yeah, 20 years in the making, 6 years or 6 months on the production side between like editing and doing the book cover and getting it ready for online. It's available paperback, hardcover, ebook on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. So it's been out since April. It's doing well. Really happy.
So you've written for ESPN, you've written for NBA.com, Slam Magazine, Sports Illustrated, many other outlets. What do you think? I'm fascinated by this because I think I'd like to know how people got where they came from, right? How did you arrive at this place? What
Sure.
was your breakthrough moment to get into the business?
Oh gosh. I graduated from Portland State University in Oregon in 2003. And I was writing history papers, Black studies, African American history. I was doing like 13-page papers a week. I started falling in love with the writing process, and once graduation came and went, I still was in the rhythm of writing. And so it was more journaling at that point. I got into some sports writing online early. Around that time, I was also moving to New York City. So it just fell in line that I would kind of seek that out for myself as far as, hey, the writing thing, the appreciation, the interest in sports, wanting to kind of maybe pull back the curtain and tell some stories behind the story, so to speak. So that kind of all jumped off 2004 when I was in New York, the New Jersey Nets, before they moved to Brooklyn. So I was covering them initially before starting to cover the Knicks. So that really gave me the foot in the door.
And did you always have an interest in basketball?
Baseball. Baseball was my kind of go-to what I thought I would cover sports-wise. At that time, Portland had a minor league team, AAA affiliate for the Padres. So I thought about, hey, maybe I'll just kind of go that route. Just really freelance. But the only writing jobs I could find at the time, mind you, I didn't go to journalism school. I didn't have a stack of bylines to show to an editor or anything like that. I was really trying to start fresh. So yeah, I was covering NBA, doing draft profiles for just draft coverage. That's how I really started online. Yeah.
Interesting. Over the years, what interview, I feel like anytime I talk to journalists or I talk to authors, but people that have done stories repeatedly, there's usually a story that stayed with somebody over the years. It felt a little bit more personal. What's a story that you covered and wrote about that has always stayed with you over the years?
Yeah, Chris. So I kind of opened the book with this a little bit, just a reminder and a note to myself, like some of the best stories are the ones I haven't written yet. or the ones that have just been memories that I kind of keep close to the heart. The stories that you're on deadline for, or you're writing for a newspaper or a magazine, it's like having a baby. They're all special in their own individual ways. But to answer your question, the one that would come to mind is probably Kobe Bryant. Um, the Lakers were in town when he was in LA and uh, facing the Portland Trailblazers. Lakers continuously struggled in Portland during that stretch. Phil Jackson always blamed it on the rain. But Kobe was one of the last guys out of the locker room, always, and always dressed up, very professional. A lot of reporters in the room that night in the locker room, but they came and went because they were on a hard deadline. They couldn't hang around to talk to him or even just listen to him. So that's what I was in the room to do. At that point, my story was done for the night. I had a couple of more that I was working on. I wasn't working anything with Kobe per se, or even on the Lakers. At that time, I had to cover both NBA locker rooms, so I already covered the Blazers and went down. I just let me just listen to Kobe for a little bit, and he talked. Oh gosh, maybe like 20, 30 minutes just to a handful of us, just about how he needs to do that as a leader, uh, communicating. Delegating, uh, just being there for those young guys that were already on the bus waiting for him. He commandeered the trainer's room, so he was the last one out of the locker room. But it's just worth the wait, especially with his passing. That's one I usually hold tight.
Right. No, it seems he is such a person that garners so much attention in stories that have taken place for people. I was just in Newport Beach recently and a random Mexican restaurant, and up on the wall is a picture of Kobe with his arm around the owner of the restaurant. And I mentioned to the guy in the restaurant, I said, "Oh, I saw the picture." And he almost teared up and he said, "Kobe was the best. He was incredible.
Yeah,
He would just come in here and talk to us and eat, and everything was nice." Right. And so I think it's fascinating when you see these people in these types of environments, especially in the
100%.
story that you just told. You see
Yeah,
them as people, right? You see these people that
100%.
everyone read about, they watch them play, they become these mythical figures, but in the end, they're people, right? And this is what draws out the human interest part of this.
100%.
Uh, I- Wendell, I want to go back to the book for a second here. So I like the title, by the way, called for traveling. You've done a lot of different things. You mentioned Germany. Talk to me about the book, right? What are some of the parts of the book that really stood out to you that you are really, I don't want to say proud, but you know what I mean? Something
Sure.
that really resonates with you in a story that you can tease out to the audience if they do read your book, what they might get an idea of there.
Yeah. So compiling this book was quite the feat. I kind of wanted it to be like my best of. Um, or greatest misses maybe in some cases. Like there's some stories that definitely didn't play out in my favor, but the ones that did are included in the book. There's over 70 uh, pro athletes and coaches involved everywhere from Shaquille O'Neal to Mark Cuban, Isaiah Thomas, um, Jerry Sloan, late Jerry Sloan. So Phil Jackson. I mean, there's all just types of little tidbits and nuggets in there. Uh, I broke it into 3 sections just when I covered the NBA. Got, a lot of those stories from USA Today, ESPN.com, and, NBA.com, so the magazine is a special. So there's a lot of features in that. The second portion is called, learning the Euro step. That's about me going overseas and trying to figure out, okay, I'm gonna still write. I kind of either I timed it or God's timing on it that the NBA lockout happened around that time. So a lot of NBA guys that I covered are now overseas playing for their national teams. I also traveled during that time, went to Lithuania for Eurobasket 2011 and covering for NBA.com. So I was able to storytell and do stories with Nick Batum for the Oregonian newspaper back in Portland. So I still I was grinding or working or even compiling in these short stories. Easy to digest. I want to make, readers like, oh, like put you there, put you either in the locker room or in the arena or maybe on the street with them. Get to know, as you mentioned, like get to know them as people beyond their title or their contract number or how many points they scored or how many, all the statistics. It's in there, but I say the human elements really in there. And then the last um, portion of the book is dedicated to just me kind of like, oh, do I still have this? I thought it was a wrap. I thought maybe I was done writing, especially covering basketball. But there's a developmental league in the U.S. and North America that helps prepare guys for overseas and that next level. And I was able to kind of work with that league and cover them and chronicle those stories for 3 years. So those interviews and stories are in the book too about the guys that are trying to get, or the first chapter and the second chapter of the guys are, right? Like all those good games and stories. But there's baseball in there too. There's football, Chris. There's a little pro wrestling. There's some boxing. So I just wanted to have kind of a one stop shop for my work.
And and I think the fascinating thing about you is that you're not just a writer. You were doing scouting, you were also coaching. What was the transition like there? I mean, take me through that
Mhm.
process and how you ended up doing those things.
Yeah, difficult. Uh, just because I started that process early when I was covering the Portland Trail Blazers, knew that the overseas venture was coming up, and I thought to start networking, building some relationships. I felt the best way to do that was internally through the Portland Trail Blazers. They got great scouts at front office. A lot of those guys played overseas. So I was able to kind of pick and choose people that played in Germany. And I went to one NBA scout and I was like, hey, I'm thinking about going overseas. I'd like to move closer to the game. I enjoy writing, but I think I may be able to help some teams either on the scouting and recruiting side, really create some player profiles. Uh, yeah, get their name out there a little bit more. And he patted me on the shoulder and he's like, all right, good luck. Not, hey, you should talk to this coach or this team or do this when you get over there. It was kind of like you kind of have to figure it out. And that's sometimes what it is, basketball world or sports writing in general. It's a small world at the end of the day. So those relationships, having some staying power, having some credibility, building rapport with people. I think I was able to do that both in the States and Germany. When I got there, I looked to see, where the pro teams were, started reaching out, went to a couple games, uh, had a meeting with one general manager. He said, do you want to come work for us? Doing exactly what I pitched to them, the scouting and recruiting. Next thing you knew, I was looking at game film for probably, 200 guys to fill 5 roster spots on a second division team in Germany. So, these are guys that are coming from junior colleges or second division, NCAA. Um, guys are really just trying to get a stepping stone, get experience, but it's a nice way to see the world and get paid for loving what you do and playing a sport, basketball. And you don't know, somebody's always watching. I'd say that too, Chris. Like there's eyes and ears everywhere and guys can make it. I know there's only 400 jobs in the NBA and only 400 jobs in the G League, but there's countless jobs overseas. So that's what I liked about it, getting to know those guys and then getting them acclimated, you know, picking up from the airport, showing them where their apartment was, where the grocery stores are, the do's, do nots of being under the microscope as an international player, especially if you're a black basketball player in a small German town, you're going to have a lot of eyes and ears on you. So just trying to make them mindful, like if you are going to seek this as a profession, and there's no owner's manual to it, you have to go through the experience of it. Like I felt like I was going through that with a lot of those guys too, because I was trying to figure out my way as well. I had a family with 2 little ones. Was doing the stay-at-home dad thing and writing, scouting, going to games, practices, doing scouting reports and bad scouting reports. So, um, but it's all pieces of the puzzle, I think, Chris. Like you got to have those pieces fit at the right time, and thankfully for me, they did.
And in terms of the coaching side, I hear the writing side and the scouting side, but the coaching side, were you on a staff, actually coaching, or were you doing more of the behind the scenes scouting work?
At that level, you kind of have to do a little bit of everything. I'll backtrack. When I was growing up in Corvallis, Oregon, I'd go to Oregon State basketball practices like a 10-year-old. I'd sneak in through the back door and work my way up to the rafters and just hang out and watch practice. So I think a lot of that took hold in me to the point where I still play. Like I still play today. I'll probably go shoot around today. I coached last year in middle school and JV up in Connecticut. So it's always nice to kind of be in around the game in that way. Uh, for the pro side, when you're doing, scouting or player development, my job, I felt like once I had the paperwork side and the viewing and the film, I prepped the guys, went over the scouting reports, uh, could break down the tendencies of teams or players and let them know on the fly, hey, watch for this, or, they want a lot of ISOs or picks or what, however we're going to break it down for the guys so they can be at their fullest to perform. Once that job was done, I'm like, who wants to be at the gym early and who wants to stay late? Well, I'll rebound. Let's work on, defense. Let's get up and down the court. Once, if you don't get your reps, especially if you don't get your reps, because in Germany, you, you can only have two Americans on the floor at one time. It's like you could run five Americans out there and just put the numbers on the board.
Oh, I didn't know that. So you can only
Yeah,
have two Americans at one time.
in Germany, like each country is different, but in Germany, you can only have two Americans. So you'd hope you get the American with the dual citizenship. You know what I mean? Have the German
Right.
girlfriend or wife, or some grandmother was German, and you could get to, go through that route. However, it was to like equip the guys. Like, what do you guys do? Like, what would help? You know what I mean? I was there to do that because I was just so happy and thankful to have that gig and be with the guys, go on the road, um, and the gyms. I mean, I gotta say, like fans, die hard. It's less about if you win or you lose. It's more about did you give it your all. So I always love that, with noisemakers, and the flags, and the drums, and these big arenas that you see on TV. Yes, but a lot of these are smaller high school gyms that are kind of tucked away in these remote parts of Germany in some cases. So, but they pack them out. Fans are passionate about it. So it's interesting to see, especially because basketball over there was like third tier. It was like soccer. I think maybe some race car driving. I think it's handball was huge over there. So basketball was kind of even still trying to make their way to feel like, oh, we're here. This is what we're doing. A great fan base. So I love my time in Germany and just traveling around, seeing the different games in different countries and just being a spectator, just being a fan of being, oh gosh, I could take this into my practice with my guys, or hey, let's try this, or even just giving out books. Hey, I'm reading this basketball book. Let's kick it down to, just to keep you in that mindset as well.
Well, this could be interesting. A few rapid fire questions for you here. You
Sure.
mentioned a lot of arenas in Germany. What was your favorite arena you ever covered a team in, whether the Trailblazers or somebody else? Favorite
Oh,
place that you ever
oh,
went to, just the
Dylan,
crowd, the
these are
ambiance, all
so
of it.
great. That's a great question. I don't know if I mean when I started covering the Knicks in Madison Square Garden, that's definitely an eye opener. And Larry Brown was the head coach. Isaiah Thomas was the general manager before Larry let go, and Isaiah took over as head coach. So it's a different vibe when MSG is rocking when they're winning, but when there's drama and there's heat, you can almost taste it in MSG a little bit. So it's fun in that way for me because I'm not there for the win or the loss. I'm kind of there for the story, right? Like if they win, great. If they lost, I always thought it was a better story in some ways because you get to see them overcome them and see if they can really do it. So even watching them win the championship this year was MSG was kind of that. Uh, in Portland at the Rose Garden, it's now the Moda Center. If the Blazers stay there, we'll see. It's always that with the new ownership group, but that arena is very special because that's all they have. Of course, they have the Oregon Ducks or the Oregon State Beavers, but and MLS soccer, but with NBA basketball, if the Blazers leave Rip City, it's going to be all torn up. So that would be sad. So I'd have to put that up there. Oh gosh, when I was in Lithuania, there's something about those fans that reminded me of, like, being in Indiana or Connecticut at a youth Hanukkah. They're just super passionate, very intelligent, diehards, up and down the streets, old vintage photos of old basketball players like Arvydas Sabonis. So to me, that's endearing because it's beyond, right? It extends beyond the court, comes into the community, so you're able to kind of appreciate it in that sense too. Um, but sometimes just like the local little gyms where they're just playing high school pickup games, or trying to, 3, 2, 1 countdown and hit that final jumper to where you're like, oh my gosh, it just takes you right back. So all those kind of that, gel into one for me, I guess, when it comes to like being the man in the arena. There's so many different arenas I've been in, the gyms. So it's come here hard to pick just one. But those are just some of like the quick little memories that come out about that, I guess.
Right. What about the most underrated sports city? Right. I mean, we're seeing it now with the World Cup. Such an interesting format where we have Miami, Kansas City, Seattle, Vancouver, Boston, right, and all of these places have come together. And you wouldn't think,
Yes.
you think of the Kansas City Chiefs, and they're a huge NFL team and have a big following,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't necessarily think of Kansas City right away as like this big American destination, but people are having a great time there, right? So what is that underrated American city that you've traveled through, or even international European city that you've been to for sports?
Well, just to kind of bring it to present tense, for the last year, I've been writing for Sports Illustrated and covering nationally. So I've been from Connecticut to Nebraska to Oregon down to San Diego, to Florida, seeing the game, American Legion baseball games in the summer, in Nebraska, those hit different. Um, Watching pro wrestling at a pro wrestling school in Oregon, it's some uh, dark little indie show, drawing maybe 100 or 200 fans. Like those are always cool to see. I'd say anything where a high school athlete or even an athlete in general is paying it forward or going beyond just what they do as a profession, but if they're involved in a nonprofit or community outreach or have aspirations of coaching in their own, and they're making that transition from all my playing days are over to I think I'll go back to my alma mater and coach at some small little high school. Like to me, those are always like a feel good stories because they just resonate, right? It's like watching Hoosiers or it's watching the natural. It's like you can you can almost taste it. Even going to watch, minor league baseball and going to Palm Beach watching the Cardinals play for that. Like there's so many interesting little stories you can just bump into. And I've done that. I was upstate New York at a rookie Class A single A game one day. I'm like, I'm just gonna go to the ballpark, not gonna write, not gonna look for any stories. I'm just gonna. Next thing you knew, I was 2, 3 interviews deep by the third inning talking to people. Or, I don't know, it just kind of sticks with you in that way. I think there's a lot of good stories to tell up that.
A- And what did bring you to the Palm Beach area, Wendell?
Oh gosh. Yeah, just kind of a fresh start. Like I mentioned, I'm still writing for SI and after traveling and been all over, like Nebraska's always felt like home and Oregon's always felt like home. I was kind of looking for that next stop for myself and what that might look like. And yeah, once I got down this area, it just felt like home to me. So I've been here for the last couple of months.
You've been here a short time, and I appreciate you reaching out to me. I ask everybody the same question, or usually a couple of the same questions. What's your favorite restaurant that you've discovered around here yet that you like to go to?
Oh gosh. You could probably catch me at Rocco's Tacos, you know? I like Rocco's. If I'm gonna just go and have some quick, you know, tasty Mexican and some tacos, so that would probably be on my list. Dune Dog is pretty good. Been
Dune
there a
Dog,
few
yeah.
times.
Dune Dog gets shouted out a lot on here, and I
Yeah,
definitely think it's one of the more unique restaurants around here. You can't go wrong. You can take anybody there. The food is consistently good.
yeah.
That's good. I think it's the first time we've had Rocco's shouted
Okay.
out though, which is
Yeah, yeah,
good.
hey,
Definitely a
on
good spot.
PGA. Uh-huh.
Uh, and
Yeah.
you mentioned too, like the Palm Beach Cardinals. That really is. We've had Mike Bauer on the show, who's the
Mm,
GM of Roger Dean Stadium, and that really is a special place to go. You can go any day of the whole
yes.
summer. It's going to
Yes.
be a little hot, but at night, you get that breeze. The
Yes.
guys are interactive. You could talk to everybody there. There's really not many
Yes.
people there.
Great
You can
stuff.
always get a good seat. My kids catch foul ball after foul ball. That's a
Yeah.
great spot
Same.
to be. And you're right,
Yeah.
there are stories galore, I'm sure, to look at.
And when
Any
yeah, I was gonna say when the Cardinals are out of town, then the Hammerheads, right? Jupiter Hammerheads play there for the
Yes,
Miami
yes.
Marlins.
So
So they
there's always a game usually every
yeah,
day there.
I love it.
Anything else in the Palm Beach area, that I could tell you're one of those people that you see the story and you've been here a short time. I mean, who's that one person that you would love to interview in this
Oh,
area that you think would
oh,
make a great story?
killing me with these because I've been looking. You know what I mean? Like what would that be? Um, when I'm not writing for Sports Illustrated or working on a book, I'm usually writing about pro wrestling on Substack. So and I know this is kind of a hotbed for pro wrestling and older pro wrestlers.
Right?
So I'd probably start somewhere the list around there. Retired pro wrestlers. So if you have any or know any, you can send them my way.
I'll tell
Or
you
guys
what.
in just or girls. Like that is a sport, that is a craft, that as a theater at its finest to me. Is such like good storytelling because that's what that is, those narratives and good versus evil that are still applicable in storytelling. So I think that's for me while I'm kind of always looking like, oh, there are any wrestlers that want to share some stories.
Well, I think we're similar age, and I will tell you, and you'd probably agree with me based on what you just said, but maybe we're going a little deep here. But to me, there was no greater entertainment in my lifetime than the WWF in the 1980s. I mean, it was, I don't think people realize how compelling it was, the drama.
No,
I mean, I grew up in Boston. I'm not trying to make the podcast show about me now, but I think this is an interesting conversation for people that have hung with the conversation long enough here. And my heroes were Larry Bird, Roger Clemens, Cam Neely, and Hulk Hogan, right? I mean, that was my Mount
you're
Rushmore.
not
And if
watching. Sure.
and they had everything. They had the cartoons in the morning. They had
Yes.
Saturday night's main event. They had you could put on USA. There was wrestling. We'd go to the old Boston Garden and watch these matches, and they'd bring in local wrestlers to wrestle
Yes.
people like Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and all these people. But
Yeah.
Wendell, I am going to hope that you get one of these ex wrestlers
I
here
hope.
in the area. I know Ric Flair is very popular at different places,
Yes.
especially over in
Sure.
the Tampa area. He's always hanging out in different bars and people go up and he's very approachable. But
Yeah.
look, anytime those TV shows are on that showcase wrestlers, I
Documentaries
for,
are fantastic. Good time.
yes, yes.
I
Like,
think so.
you could sit and watch them for hours because they were
Yeah.
such mysterious people. You didn't really know what they were like. They played their characters
Yeah.
so well.
Yeah. I think living the gimmick, right? Like the character you're portraying, a lot of guys did take that on. I wrote yesterday about Jake the Snake Roberts. I have this 1990 WWF Classic #7, Jake the Snake in his full attire with Damien up. To me, it's like ring psychology at its finest in that golden era. And the thing is, Chris, like, Paul Roma, you remember Paul Roma? He run
Yes. He had
okay.
his last name was
Paul?
Moody, actually.
Yeah. He runs a wrestling school up in Connecticut and is helping, and he got involved. He was a guest referee. I think he's probably like 62 or 63. End up doing somebody off the ropes and just pressed him like it was 1986 all over again. It was such a
Yeah.
good to witness and just appreciate because you saw the 19 to 20-year-old, not only fans, but like the boys and the girls are trying to get into that business, like they're able to learn from some of those greats. So, but yeah, we might have to set up a separate podcast about just talking Boston stuff because I'm a diehard Red Sox fan still. I was at Fenway last fall, sadly.
Uh,
You
I could do that. I could do that all day. I mean, this being the Palm
we'll
Beach
just turn it
Current.
up and
I don't know who's left with us out there. Like, oh God, here come the
yeah,
Boston sports things and wrestling. But honestly, that's the beauty of the show, right? I mean, I try to have as many
yeah,
different types of guests, a real eclectic
sure.
audience. And maybe you want to listen to a show, maybe you don't. That's fine. I mean, the
I
episodes
think
are there to pick and choose.
I was gonna say, Chris, like as somebody that's new to the area, as an author that has a book out, kind of like your one man show. Like you have to do your own PR, you have to do your own branding and marketing. So when it came to me looking around for people to talk to, like your name would pop up everywhere and your podcast would pop up and the branding and look and the feel of it and being able to listen to like some of those previous episodes and guests. I was like, oh, I think I need to connect with Greg.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
really appreciate you doing it.
Well, no, I appreciate that. And, and that's really what this is all about. I'm one of those guys. I don't want the attention. I want the guests to have the attention. And my part of this is I get to know people that come on the show and I try to maintain relationships and help them out. And it's
Yeah.
fun, right? I really enjoy that. But Wendell, how can people get their hands on this book and how can that professional wrestler get in touch with you when he's ready to do that interview?
I'm on social pretty heavy under W_Maxey, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. So you can try it there. Call for Traveling is available on barnesandnoble.com and amazon.com. And if you need any bulk copies or signed copies, you can hit me up directly. I'm happy to do that. And then my email is maxeyjr@hotmail.com. Stick with the Hotmail, Chris. It's like vintage now.
It's vintage, and I read an article recently. I think it was in the New York Times, maybe not the New York Times, somewhere that I read in the morning that said, "Ever notice all the older people that have Hotmail, AOL, and Yahoo accounts? They don't charge you for anything, but man, Gmail hits you up as soon as your account hits a certain size." I thought it was pretty good. And the more people that talk about it, they're going to start charging. So I get it. But listen, Wendell, it was a pleasure. Everybody go out and read, buy the book, read the book. Professional wrestlers, please get in touch with them. And really, I think the beauty of social media is it gravitates towards people of similar interests, and reach out if you have any of the similar interests that you have. It was a pleasure to have you on the show. And please, maybe we'll do a wrestling podcast at some point. But I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Palm Beach Current, bringing you the people, places, and stories shaping our community. If you enjoyed the show, follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves Palm Beach County. Until next time, stay connected, stay curious, and stay current.